we are studying the 29th word, second aim, first fundamental point. Last week was our first session after a break, and we kind of went over the topic, and then we did a sort of summary of how far we've come. Today we're going to start with just a little summary of the third source, and then inshallah we're going to go on to the fourth source. Dr. Yamina is with us. She's helping us understand this text. And the 29th word is again about angels, the immortality of spirits, and resurrection. So I know that Sarah, you had some reflections to share. Anyone else, if you have any reflections to share based on last week's lesson, you can go after her. If not, we'll start reading the fourth source, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Nurbanu. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Last week, we had a heartwork assignment of watching something with just keen observation and reflection in order to really pause and witness the miracle of that thing as a way, one way, Dr. Yamina was saying, to train consciousness so that we can strengthen this being that resides deep within this house, train it to be more active, inshallah, as the primary being that perceives. So we mentioned pausing with the breath and watching the breath. And so I just wanted to share a reflection that came about that, which reminded me of the last sentence of the third source. Because I have been, alhamdulillah, with this practice with Dr. Yamina for a very long time, it's a little bit easier for me now to, while it's still very difficult, so no worries to anybody, just pause and watch your breath, because we're so used to, like Dr. Yamina says, being so busy that we almost forget to drink water, or we almost forget to just stop and sit and breathe. And yet it's the most important thing we have to do. And it's never taught to us. So I was telling one of our dear sisters, I don't know if she's here. Yes, alhamdulillah, yeah. That when we take so many years and so many decades of our lives training this very fast pace, go, 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 I have to do, then it's, imagine for, I don't know, a few years of attending halaqah, someone telling you, pause, slow down, breathe, watch your breath. It takes time to unlearn decades of living in America and running at top speed all day, every day, until it's time to just pass out on your bed. So while I understand it's very difficult, I invite you guys to, one, recognize that we live in an extremely fast-paced society, especially if you're on the East Coast. And that makes it even more of a priority that we have to schedule in breathing habits, doing it regularly, just stop and watching our breath, because we are only spending years with Dr. Yamina of weekly Quran study in order to wake up this very hidden reality of what this ruh, the spirit is. It's like we need to just pause, because we're saying all of these words. The human individual spirit is immortal. And we're reading it like it's like يعني, like it's something normal, and yet it's something extremely profound that Imam Nursi rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'a is saying to try to awaken us from this deep mindlessness, ghafla, this incredible heedless of our reality of who we are. So that's just the intro. And forgive me for taking a lot of time, but I really wanted to make that a point for myself. So when I paused and I was just watching my breathing, and again, this is because I've, it's something that I've been trying to do for some time now. It's as though I felt like I'm watching a corpse, but moving up and down. Like I'm seeing this breath happening to this kind of physical thing. And it was interesting to pause with that because it felt like the watcher was so separate from the breath. And it reminded me of something I shared with someone before, like in some meditations, people are like, yeah, watch your breath. This breath gives me life. And for many, a long time I accepted that. And then one day I just paused, like, this doesn't feel right that the breath gives me life. I understand that when the body stops breathing, the body is dead. I get that, but it felt like here is the watcher. There's a watching being somewhere that now I get to kind of sit with for a moment, watching the chest rise up and down of this weird physical thing that I dwell in. So I just wanted to kind of pause with that because we're trying to awaken the reality of who we are. And the last sentence says, in which case, at God's command and with his permission and through his making it permanent, the human individual spirit, which is the conscious element and living part of him, is immortal. And it just felt so safe. Like who I really am, the living part of me, is this kind of, let's just say, the watcher that was watching. I was sitting, I guess alongside a watcher that was watching this body breathe up and down. And because we've been spending so many weeks saying, okay, the spirit is like clothed in a body. Well, it's not really clothing, it's like a house. Okay, so the spirit is living in this house, and actually it's clothed in something fine, like a luminous sheath. So it just felt like this, as though if the body is the house, there's like, I don't want to say a basement, but there's a safe, because the basement's usually considered something safe if there's a storm. Deep in my being, there is something dwelling inside that's super safe and it's immortal. So, Yani, I was telling a few friends, whatever happens to the house, Yani, you're gonna feel it. Of course, you're gonna feel it. But the reality of who you are is so not that. It's so safe somewhere within. I just want to pause with that. If anybody wants to share anything, please do. I don't want us to think this is a book club. I don't want us to think that we're reading words. And I have to remind myself weekly that Imam Nursi received such, mashallah, illuminated inspiration that changed the way he lived to be invincible amidst the most severe trials. He went through the most severe trials, but because he was gifted this illuminous consciousness of the reality of things, Yani, first and foremost himself, yeah, he was able to give us this to help us reach that level of transformation. So we need to, inshallah, intend to practice the homework. Bi'idhnillah. I'm gonna pause there.
Jazakallah, Sarah. I wrote something based on what you said. So the practice that we're trying to get at here is to make consciousness our default state of being. So we have to sort of, cultivate slowness, mindfulness, that sort of like conscious experience of what's happening to me. So I think that's how I'm going to frame it for myself going forward. One of the things that I reflected on this week was yesterday. I live in Virginia, so we haven't had any snow in the last 2 years. And I love snow, so I had been praying for it. And yesterday we had 40% chance of snow. And it started snowing around noon, and then it continued late into the night. So I felt like it was a personal gesture from my creator that he was creating the snow in a way that I could appreciate. So I spent most of the day in front of the window because I had prayed for exactly this, and I wanted to witness it and reflect on it and see, what's going on. And then I was reflecting on, I can only see just a little bit of the snow. I mean, especially when it was darker, I could only see the snow that was under the streetlight. And that's what I was, focusing on. And then I realized, even though that's the only part of it that I can see, he's still making it snow all across all of these neighborhoods that are around me. And each snowflake is coming down with his knowledge, and they come down in such a lovely way. Even watching that gives me peace. And I was thinking, he doesn't, I don't know how to say this in a appropriate way. He's not cheap about it, So one of the things that I was thinking of was the generosity or the vastness of his mercy. And how even if I'm the only person watching the snow at 2 a.m., he's still displaying his power and knowledge and creation of that and all of those unique snowflakes across such a huge span of the world. And he doesn't hold back. So I was just like, that is so lovely. And then this morning I went for a walk, and I was thinking, like, even the sound it makes when I step on the snow is created in a way that it sounds really cute to me. There doesn't even that little detail is made endearing to me. So the whole experience was very nice, and I felt like because I had this in the back of my mind, I could stay with that experience and think and then it kind of brought me to the first aim where we talked about there's so much to be thankful for, and we can't really do it justice. So I was kind of trying to connect with the angelic side of it, and not just meaning, but also how is this snow glorifying its creator, and what is it in the creation of the snow that appeals to me. And I can't thank my creator for each snowflake, but I am at least saying that if it were possible, or because it is the case that each snowflake is in a state of glorification, I am witnessing and confirming and acknowledging. So I'm just joining their chorus. So that's what I've been reflecting on, especially the last 2 days. Do we have anyone else who'd like to share based on what we have talked about last week, or about any of the kind of like consciousness practices that they have done? And if not, we will start reading the fourth source, inshallah.
I'd like to share something that happened this weekend. I was with Yamina and we went to attend an event. And for that event, we thought, because it's going to be a very highly attended event, that we better take buses than to take the car and park. And so we took the bus. The bus is we took it from a place that is like an hour plus away from both Yamina's home and further. Yamina's home is closer to the event. But anyway, we took it because I thought that was the safest way, and I was the one who convinced her. So I was told, as I asked what should I take with me, friends reminded me to take another battery pack with me. And so I had my phone, Yamina had her phone, and then before it was time to go back to take the bus, my phone battery died, Yamina's phone battery died, and I was confident I had the battery pack in my bag, so I pulled that out, but I forgot to get the cord. So we were at night by then, and we were like circling like a huge, maybe 3-4 blocks in one, trying to figure out, like, we were close, but now we have no clue, and no one has any clue about where we are. And then I witnessed the Amr, like the Amr of Allah. That was pure witnessing. Like, this happened exactly to be the homework in action. Even before we were like, at least before I would panic, the buses that we took had a certain shape. So as we're going around, and already it's late, and the time, the buses are leaving has already came, we are by the street, and then God orders the red lights to stop. So the red lights on the street stopped. That was an Amr, that was very clear. And then a bus that looked similar to the buses that we took stopped at the red light with the street behind it with cars. And another Amr came to me to go and knock on the door of that bus, not knowing what I'm going to say or what I'm going to ask about. I was going to ask, do you know where would buses that look like you park? Like, I didn't even have a question in my mind, but another Amr came to me. And as I knocked on the door and they opened the door, Yamina had an Amr to read the number of the bus, and she realized that bus was one of the buses that she has seen in the place that we took the bus from. And when she said that, another Amr came to let me ask if we could then get on the bus because, you know, we have no way to find anything now and no batteries and it's dark. And then an Amr came to someone on the bus to say, okay, what is the number of your bus? Let me text them. And all of that, like the bus is stopping, they text. And as soon as things are like, you know, dealt with, the red light turns green and we're in the bus and the bus moves. And all what I could think of as we sat down in that bus was Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah. This is amazing, Subhanallah. So that was for me like several amrs that were happening with the perfect timing in every single detail of it, that can only happen with the amr. So that was a perfect fulfillment of the homework. Alhamdulillah for the one who takes care of every detail. In this case, we got to observe it, and many other cases we don't even know. But this one was so clear.
Jazakumullah. No, Jazakallah. I think, not I think, I liked the way that you said different Amr came to you each time with each action, because even though it sounds repetitive, that's exactly what's happening whenever we do anything. So what a nice way to think about things. Okay, inshallah, we can start reading the fourth source. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Fourth source. Consider the laws that govern in species, which to a degree resemble the spirit. And since they both issue from the world of the divine command and will, with regard to their source, are to a degree appropriate for the spirit, and only lack a perceptible existence. Study them, and it will be seen that if those commanding laws were clothed in external existence, each of them would become the spirit of the species. And the laws are always permanent, they are always perpetual and constant. No change or transformation affects the law's unity or spoils them. For example, should a fig tree die and be dispersed, the law of its formation, which is like its spirit, will continue in its tiny seeds, it will not die. And so, since even the most commonplace and weak commanding laws are thus connected to permanence and continuance, the human spirit must be connected not only with permanence and immortality, but with all eternity. For according to the Quran's glorious decree of, say, the spirit comes by the command of my sustainer, spirit too is a conscious and living law which has come from the world of the divine command, and which pre-eternal power has clothed with external existence. That is to say, just as the unconscious laws, which proceed from the divine attribute of will and the world of the divine command are always, or mostly, enduring, so is it even more definite that the spirit, which is a sort of brother to them, and like them, is a manifestation of the attribute of will and comes from the world of the command, manifests immortality. It is also more worthy of it because it is existent, it has an external reality. And it is more potent more elevated because it possesses consciousness. It is also more enduring than them and more valuable because it is living. Off the bat, one thing that catches my attention in the fourth source is the emphasis on the spirit's external existence, which he says 3 times, I think. So it has an external reality, and then clothed in external existence, would be the spirit of the species. And then he says it in one more place, which I just missed. So external existence, I don't think he means physically. I just think he means it's not a probability or something, like it actually exists.
It's not a theoretical abstract law, because a law is abstract. We deduce it from the order of things.
Right. So, okay, so in the first paragraph, we're looking at the laws that govern in species, and he gives us the law of its formation, for example. These laws, like we call them laws, but they don't have an external existence like the spirit. They're just what we have kind of deduced, as Dr. Yamina said, from what we observe in the universe, in Sunnatullah or Adatullah. And that, he said, is kind of like a spirit. They're sort of similar. And even though they don't have this external existence, they are permanent, perpetual, and constant. No change or transformation affects the law's unity or spoils them. So he said, even if these theoretical laws are subject to permanence, perpetuity, and being constant and being unified, or without, getting spoiled or destroyed, I guess, out of that unity, then of course, something even more elevated, which has external reality, it's not just theoretical, and it has consciousness, and it is living, then he said, of course, that must have permanence and it must have immortality. So that's sort of my first impression of the fourth source. Any questions? Oh, Sarah, go ahead.
If you just scroll up, it reminds me of something that was in the third source that I had a question about. And so I'm just going to pose the question, and I'm honestly just trying to pause with the whole laws. So he says, a law that governs and is in force in the species is also in force in the human individual. So I was reflecting on that too, like, okay, is that true? Let's go back and look at that. And then the second question I had about that is, well, we don't even have to jump into that. I guess my question would be for Dr. Yamina. I'm kind of not clear about what he's trying to say. So I was thinking about a law that governs as an enforce in the species is also enforced in the human individual. So connecting the human being and the universe, which is so beautiful. And I think a lot of people that don't study scripture are really leaning into that. Like the laws that exist with the sun and the moon and the celestial realm, the oceans. those same laws have an effect on my being. I don't know if this is connected. But like, for example, when the moon and the ocean have their tug and all that stuff, there's shifts there, and then there's shifts in my being as well because of like the water makeup. I don't know. I don't know if that's what he was referring to or something else. So I just wanted to ask.
Assalamu alaikum. I think we did talk about this point last week, which is when we talk of human being, we have the animal side, if we may say. I can't find a better expression.
What about
of-
physical?
Well, okay, we can say the physical aspect of the human being, but here it's a living physical being. That's why I said animal, because animal, not in the sense of animal. Anima is something living. Okay, let's say the physical, living physical being. And we have the conscious aspect that makes us different from other living being, especially animals, rather plants. And we have animals that seem to have a little more will, a little more choice, but still it's very limited. And we have the human being. So from, if we leave that what makes us human being, the spirit, aside, everything else, like all the biology of the human being, is similar, not the same, but it functions in a similar way. It follows an order in a way that what we call a law is something that we can derive and deduce from our observation. For instance, you can follow the order and you know how long it takes for an egg, a chicken egg to hatch. If it's an egg of this species of bird or something, that law is because there is an order in the creation. That's why he's saying these laws, they come from divine will. It's a divine command. And so we know how long it takes for a human being to, for instance, to be born. We know all the phases of growth before birth, after birth. We have an idea of what a human being looks, not the special, unique look of each being, but when we see a being, we know, oh, we don't even think, is this a human being? It's clear it's a human being. So all these things fall into this law that governs and is in force in the species, is also in force in the human individual. And then in the fourth source, now he's talking about the laws that govern in species, which includes human being as a species, but the physical aspect, which to a degree resembles the ruh. So he's saying the law resembles the ruh. The law here, the law that governs the species, is not something that has an external existence. It's something that we deduce as there is an order, there is a divine command that includes all that species. It encompasses all that species. And so he's saying that law resembles the spirit. The law of a whole species resembles one spirit, one human spirit, the human spirit. And since they both, the spirit and the law in species, what do they have in common? Why do they resemble each other to a degree? Because they issue from the world of the divine command, Amr Ilahi. And we know that from the Quran as well, but we know it from observation, especially when it comes to the laws that govern the species. And his will. Everything is as he willed. And no one can say, no, like we can change. We can't change. Even when people are researching how to, for instance, putting this plant with that plant or something, we are searching for another layer of order within the known order. We're finding if there is something else. If we had the power of be and it is, then we could just create something new, just be, and it would be. But in order for that to happen, to occur, we would have to have the power to control everything. Why? Because everything is interconnected. So in order to create or give existence or change or play with the smallest being, even seemingly dead matter, what is needed is the power to control everything that little thing is related and interconnected with. And since the smallest thing cannot exist without the whole universe, the whole galaxies, then the maker of the tiniest thing can only be the maker of everything here and now, in time, in the past, in the future, everywhere. So only an all-encompassing power and control and wisdom and knowledge can have an effect on the tiniest thing. And that's why what people do in science, they go and research. They are trying to obey and follow the divine order. They cannot just come up with something they decided to do. And so he is saying both of them they issue from the world of divine command and divine will with regard to their source. And to a degree, appropriate here is muwafaq, which is more compatible with the spirit. So and only lack a perceptible existence. So the laws are, to a degree, they remind us of the spirit in the sense or from the aspect that both are issued by divine command. They are the result of divine will. However, the law does not have an external existence, which means here that the spirit does, and we know in the previous ones, he said the spirit has an external existence. This external existence is not the body. The body follows the laws of the divine will as in other species. But there is a difference because this ruh coming directly from the divine will and having an external existence is very important, because otherwise we would not have the free will. It represents the special thing about human being, the free will, which is also a unit of measurement to understand the divine will. Remember, everything we are given is given to us to understand, to get to know God with his beautiful names. And how do we know? We understand that we are told in the Quran, first, human being is created from clay, from matter, and then Allah breathes of his own spirit. And so we have the spirit that is directly coming from the divine here and now. And so because it's coming from the divine, it recognizes God, and it recognizes the divine names, as we are told somewhere else. And then the angels are asked to prostrate to human being, not because of the physical aspect, but because of the ruh aspect. And in other passages in the Quran, we are told that God creates human being from matter, from physical things, and then he teaches him all the names, and that's what makes him more superior to the angels. And the angels accept to prostrate to this being because this being has something different. This being has the potential and the ability and the potential to know all the names. And this ability, we can make the connection, comes because what makes this human being special is the ruh. So this ruh has, because it's coming from the divine directly, has this free will. So it means it has also, just like we see, and through seeing, we know that Allah is the all-seeing. And our seeing is like a unit of measurement that makes us aware of what seeing, that there is something called seeing, although it's not of the same nature. And we know about will, we know about purpose, we know about meaning, we know about perfection, about beauty, about all the beautiful names through this. We know about the divine command also because of the ruh has an existence. It means it's created. It's not just an abstract thing like the law. Law, it means matter follows the divine command directly. Actually, we abstract or we deduce the divine command and the order from the way things are happening again and again in the same way. All human beings, we have an order, and there are charts that this child at this age, it should be this big, there is an average, more or less. It's not exact, because if it were exact, then we wouldn't know there is divine will and purpose. We would think it's like a machine. Everything has to be like this, although it still wouldn't make sense. But human being is, you see, like people in science, and they still want to deny the obvious existence of a maker here and now. And can you imagine if everything was following a deterministic law? And so we knew exactly what would happen. They could predict, I'm not talking about our choices, predict everything exactly. Then they would say, we don't need God. We know they are just following a law. Although that doesn't make sense, because what is the law? But the spirit is not like that law is. It has an existence, and it is this point that Nur Banu has pointed out from the beginning is actually a very extremely important, and we know that experientially. We experience it. We know that the reality of the ruh within us, and just like we see and we think, and we can make things, we can make take clay and make something. So we have a sense of creating. We cannot create from nothing because we have to follow an order, but we get a sense of it because of what we've been given. And we have a sense of command, of divine command, because the Ruh has that reality. And therefore, for instance, I can just watch my hand right now, and I can will my hand to move, and it moves. We take it for granted, of course. I say, my hand move. I moved my hand. I want to stand up. I want to walk. But actually, how does it happen? That's a miracle. And it's a miracle mirroring the divine command. The divine command is somehow being mirrored through the will of the individual. The individual becomes like a mirror to the divine command.
Thank you, Dr. Yamina. That's very clarifying. So I just want to pause. I know there were a few questions. Naima wrote, she was asking the difference between perceptible existence and external existence, as written in that highlighted part that Norbanu has on the screen. Are they the same? I guess I'll share with you, Dr. Yamina, what I gained from it, and then you let me know if that's right. So, the laws, the way that we see everything following, there is nothing that exists but that it's in an order. The way water works, the sun works, everything around us is only operating according to a law. Yani, something is making it act the way it does. And so that law or that order is only by command, amr. Just as the ayah, that the verse that we've been studying from the beginning, is that the ruh is from the amr of our sustainer, the same word, command. But the law in and of itself doesn't have an external existence. It's just following, like the water follows, not an external thing, that's a law. It's made to follow a particular way consistently. So I know there's another question in the chat we'll get to, but Naima, did you want to ask any questions?
No, I mean, that is the question. And I think that helps a bit. I think I just have to sit with it, and digest it a little more, and kind of like rephrase it in my words, because otherwise I'm going back to like simple definitions, like what does that mean? What does perceptible existence mean? What is that? What is, like, what are the law and what are the commands? And I'm like, isn't, I guess the laws, I feel like a lot is the law, right? Like, is that what we mean by that? Or just like, I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I'm being confusing because I'm confused. And that's okay. And it's just because I haven't been here from the beginning. So I will listen, because I don't even know if the question that I'm asking makes sense.
Yeah, I think the question, inshallah, we can digest more later, because there was a lot of getting to this point as far as just like everything only operates according to the way it's made, and the way it's made has an angelic aspect. So it's not that it points to Allah. We were saying in the very beginning that a lot of people shortcut it, like, oh yeah, God does that. God is doing it. And so inshallah we can sort of
I saw that Dr. Yamina unmuted, so if she wants to address Naima, we can let her before Ziba goes, maybe.
I mean, here, perceptible, it means something that we can perceive through perception. It's not perceptible because it does not have an external existence. And that's why some laws have been there, but then suddenly they say, oh, I don't know what team of scientists found this law. That law was there. But it means events were happening according to a certain order. And when we realize the order, and we measure and find out that this is there is something here happening orderly, we call it a law. So laws do not have external existence. They are a theoretical construct. If something happens all the time, if you decide to leave home 8 a.m. every day, then we can say the law of leaving home at 8 a.m. The rule, it's a rule. But that rule doesn't have an existence of its own. There is nothing that makes you leave the house by force. It is you who decided to leave, which made us looking. From that, we can abstract that you have a rule of leaving the home. So the law is not God. God creates in a certain order, which we perceive as laws. We need to go from the order, observe the order, the law, the amr. If we don't go from the law to the divine command, then we will fall into shirk like in science does. And science says the laws does this. No, the law doesn't do anything. There is no law doing anything. It's like saying, I see you going out, I'm your neighbor. Every morning you're leaving at 8 a.m. And then I say, oh, there is a rule of leaving at 8 a.m. You tell me, yes, there is a rule. This is a rule but the rule you decided to put it. And then I say, you have to leave the rule, why did your neighbor, why did Naima leave her home? Because of the rule of 8 a.m. No, it's not true. The rule can't make you leave. It doesn't have power. It doesn't have existence. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't have knowledge. It's just a name, a useful term to describe the situation, the orderly situation. When it comes to the ruh, it's different because, for instance, a very simple example, our heart follows an order. Whether we're thinking, we know, we don't know, when we were babies, the heart is following. And if it goes out of the order, we may not feel well, and we may need to need some assistance, medical assistance. But usually it's going according to the order. Now, a long time ago, so I don't remember the exact details, but I had read that the Aborigines in Australia, they did not live in houses. They lived outside, and it would be very cold at night. And so, but they sleep outside. They don't even build anything. And then in the morning, they wake up. If we stayed outside there, we would die. In the morning, we would be a piece of ice. But they clean the ice from their bodies, and they go again with their life. And then they realize that they have learned to slow down their blood circulation, their heart and their blood circulation. I don't remember the detail, but just like we learn as without someone teaching us, we are taught in the fitra, programmed to walk. We take it for granted, but actually, how do we walk? We don't know. Just like we talk, like we see, like we understand, we walk, we move our hands, we move in a way that is not harmonious. How do you say? I know people who forget, for instance, how to walk. I've seen people with
Coordination in a
in a coordinated way. So they have to teach them how to walk. I knew someone, Alia, you know as well. The lady had Alzheimer, and some days she could not walk, and they thought that she had a physical illness, but the doctor said no. Those days she forgets how to walk. So you just have to remind her. She's physically, she's healthy. Can you imagine? We take it for granted that we can walk in a coordinated way or do things. Our hands, for instance, we pick up things in a coordinated way. Just like that, these people, they learned to control their heart beat, which means it's possible. That goes now beyond the other species. The other species, even if they do it fitratan. That it's already programmed. We have the ability, but it's something that we can learn. If they can do it, it means it can be learned. Why? How can it be learned? Because the spirit is directly from the divine command. It means it has the potential, the ability to command and to control the body. We don't use that ability because we live in a culture, a society where those things are not taught. It's not about that. It's all about a materialistic understanding of the world. We are all busy controlling matter outside. And sometimes it could be we are taking the long way and not leaving the shortcut because we never look inside. And that's true for lots of things, even in our daily life. If you think you don't have time to pause, then it means you need to pause even more. Because the more you pause, the more you will start slowing down. As we slow down, we remember who we are, we remember what things are around us. We can't remember when we are living too fast all the time. And then when we start remembering and we slow down, then we are more likely to receive, to listen to our intuition and to receive inspiration. And the more we receive inspiration, first our worldly life becomes smoother because we will be inspired, shorter cuts, but it will fulfill the purpose of our creation, which is not just to live in this world for living in this world, but to witness. Because when there is inspiration, then it is easier to witness the divine in the world and the divine within ourselves. Then the ruh becomes, because it's the ruh that is the conscious part of us, the living conscious part, and that will be the witness out there and inside. If we don't witness inside, the door to shirk will always be open. And we won't be able to confirm the existence of angels because we won't see the angelic aspect of the world. We will see matter and the law, as if the laws are making. Who are these laws? Where are these laws? You know why we say laws do this? Because we can't say matter is doing it. It would be too foolish and too stupid. Even in our state of ghafla, we understand that matter can't do it itself. So we say the laws. But those laws, what are they? What is behind them? They don't have external existence themselves. So this external existence is extremely important. And it's something that we can witness it, but we can witness, but here the point here is to show that it is immortal.
I think that last part also speaks to something we read in the first aim, right, Dr. Yamina, where about the angels, Imam Nursi had said that there is a Putri, I guess, need to see, or this, I guess, tendency to see the commanding law. And then instead of, like you said, saying that the matter is doing it on its own, they give it these names. And then he said that by giving it these names, like the law of whatever, gravity or this or that, they're actually veiling the angelic aspect of creation. So it was in, if you guys will remember, in one of the first, in the first day.
Yes, yes.
Aziba, I know you're unmuted, so please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, what sister, I was like from this paragraph, what we are seeing is that laws are basically what you just said, and the sister Yamin also said, that anything which is happening and keeps happening, then we see them as laws, but they are the angelic order being angels following the orders and it being happening, so it becomes, we give them name of a law. And then the Imam Nursi is trying to take us from that observation of that Malakuti side, which we see, that it's an evidence of the higher conscious being, which is being given to us as human beings. So we have the power to tap into that consciousness and to be connected to the Malakuti side. We have that potential, and it comes from a source. So laws are basically the surrounding angels, which are in service to this Ruh, which has an ability to and a potential to connect and change. The material side is should not be dictating us Ruh, because we have been given the higher potential, because they it comes from Allah directly, and He is the source, and He has given that will to that spirit to change the material aspect. Whereas usually what we are directed by the material side, it's opposite what Allah, what Imam Nursi is saying, and what potential we have been given. So I think from these two things, I'm getting that the Ruh has a potential, and it can connect to the Malakuti side, which are the laws surrounding us, which become laws because we see it happening again and again. That's why we call them law. So I think what he's taking us is to our potential. Like we have a higher potential because of our consciousness to connect and to transform an interaction with the Malakuti side of our being.
Thank you, Ziba. Sarah, did you want to read Mina's question?
Sure. So, here's the question. Free will. Free will equals the effect of the ruh on gene expression. Or free will affects the ruh, I guess, on gene expression. I'm just gonna read that last part. They added genes are there, but they're not always active. They have the potential. Genes are not on all the time. They may be off, but somehow at some point of our lives, these genes may be turned on. Sometimes the result may be cancer, but sometimes the result may be for our benefit. What do you think?
Yes, true. They are mostly not turned on. And the rest, they are turned on either unconsciously. And if they can be turned unconsciously, because unconsciously we're still making choices. Just because it's unconscious doesn't mean that I'm not making choices. But I'm making choices and I don't even know that there is, the unconsciousness comes from this. I don't know that I could be choosing something else. I'm not aware that I have other choices. And so when we become aware and we start making other choices, then that will affect everything in our life, including the genes. It's true for everything. This is what makes the human spirit the human spirit on its own equivalent to a whole species, because physically we are similar to other species. The body, for instance, works like on automatically, but then we have this spirit that has this special ability, which we call consciousness, but we don't know exactly what it means. But this consciousness has the power to reflect, just like we have eyes, and eyes have the ability to see, but because we have that consciousness and therefore we have free will, I can choose what to see, and I can even choose to use the seeing for insight, like not only with the eyes, I see with the heart, in the same way, we can have an effect on the world around us. Because we have that consciousness, we can take some formless clay and make it into all kinds of utensils and all kinds of beautiful and useful things, because that conscious things, he is a channel to creativity, is a channel to we know how to reproduce things, to many different abilities. So we have this, just like we have this power to, or this ability to form and change things in the outer world, we also have that ability on the inner world. Like, for instance, the DNA. It can happen without us knowing it, or it can happen with some people who actually focus on that and will it, but our willing is not like divine willing. It's not be and it is. Our willing is a potent form of asking God to create something for us. It's a prayer, but it's a very special, focused prayer, very focused in the sense of attention, in the sense of our consciousness is full presence in the presence of God. The more we are aware and the more we ask fully present without doubt, the more it is created. Just like, well, with the cooking could be not clay, but cooking. You take raw vegetables and you produce this beautiful meal. That we don't take it as a prayer because we've seen the law of cooking many times, or the law of sowing a seed and then the seed growing up, that we take it for granted. And so most people don't even take it as a prayer, and they think this is what I do. So the fact is, the point is not, is it a prayer or not? It's always a prayer because it's whether we are aware of it or not, because we can't create. It is created for us even when we follow all the steps. Just like there is an order for cooking, an order for making tea, there is an order. For instance, living in gratitude is the first step of changing your DNA, for instance. There is an order as well. Some people may be doing it without believing in God. I'm sure they will get some, how do you say, results in this world, because that's the divine will in this world. It's the imtihan, the test is to realize that this cannot be happening itself. I am not making it, I'm just willing it and it happens. So someone is doing something. So the more we live from that consciousness, the more everything, it is possible to see and to realize how everything is a miracle, and it becomes easier to witness and to perform the Shahada consciously, inshallah.
Living with gratitude is the first step of changing your DNA. Let's keep that in mind.
Conscious gratitude.
Conscious gratitude. It is 9:19. So if I know there were some comments from Alia and Mohsen. Do you guys want to share before we close out for the day?
I was just rewording, like, after Ziba's comment that, and after your sharing about the snow falling. So we keep saying the snow is falling, but in reality, there's like armies, like endless zillions of angels, each assigned to one flake, or maybe many assigned to one flake that has a special shape, and made even clear to our eyes that they have special shapes, all following this Amr, coming down one by one. And then we end up seeing, like, all of this snow pile up, and then we say, oh, snow piled up. We don't see that what we see as pile up of snows is just endless angels even holding it in place together. So if we can, as the snow is falling, if we can look at the snow this way, that would be another practice, inshallah.
Well, the practice is, when Nur Banu was sharing, the joy, something that we can't even explain, understand, but we feel a connection. We feel something that speaks to our heart, to our soul. We feel the joy of just looking at them. that tells us that this is just not just matter. It's not just matter falling. Something is going on here that has meaning, that has beauty. That is lovable. That speaks, as Nur Banu says, speaks to my heart, even the noise, the everything. Nothing is just happening like that. It's not just matter without any meaning, without any purpose, without any beauty. There is perfection, there is beauty, there is, and that's why my soul knows. And it's my soul that wants to go and get some, we say fresh air, it's getting some, how do you say, being with beings of the same, of the malakut that speaks to it. But our words, when we are not aware, remain in the physical as if it's just matter, as if I have a piece of paper, the ruh can read that there is something important here and it's very happy, but I think it's just scribbles, just ink, scribbles of ink. They are not just scribbles of ink. There is there a very important message from our creator, from our maker, who, from the most merciful, the most benevolent, the most beautiful, the most generous, the one we long for, and the one we want to find. Everything we are living, everything is doing all kinds of things to get that fulfillment, but the fulfillment is already, we showed the way, we say, no, I'm going to do it my way. Astaghfirullah. Yeah, that was a good example as well. Thank you.
I like that Ziba said meeting of our ruh and the angels. That's-
Yes.
Tomomi, would you like to share? I can also read if you'd like. Well, there's a comment that is, I think I'm getting the reason why spirit and the laws of our surrounding world is compared. Our spirits have potential to resonate to the divine order. So that's also nice.
Yes.
Very nice. Okay, guys. I think this was a very productive session. If anyone has any last minute comments, and if Dr. Yamina, you have any new suggestions for us to reflect on over the next week, or Sarah, please share.
Seema?
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to just last week's homework when it was given, so just making conscious, like being in the conscious presence. My interaction was while I was eating chicken fry, and subhanallah, like Nurbana was explaining her interaction with snowflake. Like I just paused and was an observation and interaction with how everything was working and how I was feeling the taste and the crunch, like how Nurban was explaining, when she could even step and see the crunch and that feel under her feet, about the noise of the snow crackling. Same way, like I was like that one chicken fry became my door to interact with all that was going on, and I could um, it even heightened my senses. Usually we eat things and we don't enjoy it to the full because we are eating without thinking. So that single chicken fry became like I was in another world somehow. So when I paused and I tried to be present and interact. So that was one place. And the second place was in the event which Sister Alia was mentioning. The same, like it was everywhere. There was so much of chanting and so much of noise. And so I just, it just came to the heart that let me bring myself into the presence, just how even in that chaotic and surrounded by so many voices, you could go back into a space where you could feel. And I was just reciting Durood. So it took me to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then I started thinking about like how our Prophet would feel, like if he could see us right now, how he'd feel about the Ummah. And so I could, like, I had such a overwhelming feeling in my heart, and uh, just like I could imagine being in presence of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and Allah showering that place with angels. And so that was like two experiences which I had last week, which just the key was to pause and try to be in the presence basically. So that was my sharing from last.
Thank you for sharing, Ziba. So this is what just came to me. I think for the weekly homework, maybe, and Dr. Yamin, I mean, I don't really necessarily have the words for this, but I feel like the weekly lesson is on the laws and the enduring nature of existence. So this immortal sort of the way that laws of of me and anything that I interact with points to the enduring one. Whoever's making this happen this way is enduring. And if that's kind of the thing to practice, I don't know if we should lean in there, Dr. Yamina, for the week, because I feel like it just needs to be a very specific, easy practice that we're going to write in the chat right after this. If you're not in that chat, please reach out to me and I'll add you. Because we do want to make it very practical, a weekly practical practice. The more simpler we can write it, the more that inshallah we can all practice it. I'm not sure if we should lean into one sort of aspect of a law and then reflect on the enduring, or make it more gratitude based, or do they just connect? Dr. Yamina, what do you think?
I think if we just carry on with last week's, doing it, for instance, when we are walking or moving my hand, or just I want to move and it moves. I want to walk and it walks. It's a little bit different than breath, because breath is, there is no free will going on. Here there is the connection. It seems like I am walking, but in fact, all I'm doing is intending to walk, and I start walking. So just see how there is a response to my intention, which is to my prayer. Can you imagine if we can see that I ask and it is given. I ask and it. Ud'uni astajib lakum. So we start receiving things in a different way. Instead of me doing things, but then when there is something special, I think I'm praying to God, and then when He doesn't answer exactly the way I want it, when I want it, then I may fall in despair or start doubting or what's going on here. But here it's, I think, walking, moving our heads, something to do with the body, because the ruh is the commanding law, but it's a special law. It's a direct manifestation of the divine command within the body. Apart from the breathing and the heart beating and everything working without our free will interfering, I open my eyes and there we are. I see. I want to sit and I sit. This can be, just observe this and share how you felt about your observation.
Perfect. Jazakallah khair. That's easy enough to, so everybody can pick one activity and write it out, what you'll, focus on, one bodily movement. And inshallah, we will talk about it next week. Jazakumullah khair, everyone, for joining our weekly Quran study. Thank you, Nur Banu. And inshallah Rahman, I'll give it to Nur Banu to end, inshallah.
Thank you, everyone. Jazakallah. Let's do, we'll pick up at the second fundamental point next week, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة على رسولنا صلوات.